que cuando quieren salir rápido en la contra Ábalos es el primero en buscar disparar y la recibe ahora Kimmich y la
Let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 306 today, 0.6%, 52,182. The Nasdaq added 522 points, 2.1%, 25,820. The S&P 500 up 86 points, 1.2%, 74 and 40 there. So, Rocket Lab makes launch vehicles, uses them to put clients' payloads into orbit. It's paying $8 billion to buy Iridium Communications and its network of telecom satellites so it can compete against SpaceX. Rocket Lab's up 15 and 9/10% today. Iridium ascended 25 and 4/10%. Meanwhile, SpaceX discussing a deal to provide cell service with cable and internet provider Charter, so says Bloomberg. Okay, SpaceX up 7 and 10% on the day. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Mercury, a fintech that offers banking, credit cards, and financial software. Marketplace is supported by Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. And by Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses meet their goals. bankofamerica.com/gamechangers. And by Intuit QuickBooks Workforce, integrating payroll, time tracking, HR, and financials, designed to connect employee lifecycle functions in one system. More at QuickBooks.com/workforce.
Thanks for joining us for Marketplace here on WBEZ.
Help us get across the finish line. You'll make the difference as our newsroom plans for the year ahead, allowing us to tell bigger, bolder, and more in-depth stories. So become a monthly donor. Give now at wbez.org/donate.
Coming up at 5 o'clock, it is All Things Considered. Heard Guy talking about Supreme Court decisions today, while the final decisions of the Supreme Court's term will be handed down tomorrow. The court set to decide whether the president's restrictions on birthright citizenship can stand or if they're unconstitutional. Listen for live coverage of the Supreme Court decisions tomorrow on WBEZ.
WBEZ is supported by Neil Gerber Eisenberg, a global law firm founded in Chicago, celebrating 4 decades dedicated to building trusted partnerships. Learn more at nge.com.
WBEZ is supported by Green Attic Insulation. Green Attic provides attic and crawl space insulation, spray foam, solar attic fans, and mold remediation services. Learn more about scheduling an inspection at greenattic.com. Let's head back to Marketplace on WBEZ.
This is Marketplace. I'm Guy Riston. Apologies in advance for this inconvenient reminder of the passage of time, but we're coming up on 5 years since the big $1.2 trillion Biden-era infrastructure law. There is, in fact, a new bill working its way through Congress to reauthorize some of that money and add some new programs as well. But the point is, building public infrastructure is expensive, and it turns out figuring out just how expensive it is way easier said than done. Leah Brooks is a professor of public policy and public administration at George Washington University, and she's got a new paper out about exactly that. Professor Brooks, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So, I'm going to read you back the title of your own paper. It says, Measuring the Cost of Building Infrastructure Over Time, very hard to do well. Why that bit after the colon? Why is it so hard to do well?
Because it's so hard, guys. It's hard because there are lots of important things that go into building infrastructure that we can't measure in a standard way.
Okay, why? How come?
Because if you're producing a private good like apple juice, you measure the things that the apple juice producer purchases to make apple juice, which could be apples and apple squishing machines and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's his producer price index. And then you can measure a consumer price index for apple juice, which is the price at which the apple juice producer sells the apple juice to consumers. But unfortunately, for roads and bridges and ports, it's not quite so clear. And it's not clear because the government is both net benefit. So not just the benefit to you, Kai Rizal, driving on the freeway to work, but the pollution and the noise that you give maybe as you pass the Hollywood Bowl and harm the
as one does in LA. Right. So all those externalities. But let me ask you something. I mean, because this is the thing that confounds the citizenry at large, I'm sure, all the time. We are told that a new road will cost $1 billion because that's what the contractors bid for it, and that's what it's going to cost. And then, 5 years later, when the road is built, it winds up costing $17 billion because of markups and the cost of the government and all of those things. So there's a lot that happens between the initial price tag and taxpayers finally paying the bill.
That's right. And what we do really, really well is we measure the initial price tag. We're great.
Right.
We're pretty good at measuring the initial price tag. We are very, very, very bad at measuring the final price tag. But then there's all the money the government puts into the project, above and beyond the money it's paid to the private contractor. And that we have little to no visibility on.
Is that like administrative overhead? Is that what you're saying? Basically, that's a broad term, but basically?
Yes, but there's so many things that go into overhead, right? That could be permitting, that could be litigation, thousands of community meetings you have in advance of a project. Those are important and valuable, and we should measure how much they cost.
We are not, as much as Americans might like to think otherwise, we are not the only country in the world, and we're not the only country in the world that builds infrastructure. And yet we have a deserved reputation for building it more expensively than almost any other country on the planet, right? The Chinese do it, the Japanese do it, the Europeans do it, and they all do it cheaper than we do. How come?
That's an excellent question, Kai. What Zach Liskow, a Yale law professor, and I have written is that part of the reason it costs so much more in the U.S. than elsewhere in the world is because we give citizens an unparalleled ability to complain, which we call citizen voice, arrived in the late 60s and early 70s as a response to truly awful things that the federal government did. But in response, we've created a system where not only do you give input before a project starts, but you give input endlessly after the project continues, sometimes in the form of litigation. But litigation also drags out projects, and the longer the project takes, the more expensive the project becomes.
I'm having a tough time wrapping my head around this because it seems so obvious that there are things that need to change, but we've been doing infrastructure in this country this way for decades and decades and decades and decades. And one despairs that there will actually be a solution.
Well, I wouldn't say that you're wrong to be pessimistic. On the other hand, economists also say, is it economists or traders, the only solution to high prices is high prices. And, maybe it wasn't bad enough before. At some point, I think it will become so expensive.
The only solution for high prices is high prices.
Professor Coach, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Kai.
More All Things Considered coming up in a moment, but first, I want to make sure you know that we just have 27 hours left of this fundraiser. We have to pick up the pace so we can finish our fiscal year strong, and that fiscal year ends tomorrow. We're not quite where we want to be, so this is crunch time, and we are coming to you, our community of listeners. I'm Susie Ahn, and I'm Cassie Walker-Burke, and think about it. You wouldn't settle for hearing just part of a story. You want